Hey guys, and here we are again. Welcome back. We got through our interview session with my talented friend here, Anthony Ciccatelli, and right now we are going to dive into the world of Henry, uh, Hank Harvey or Herc Harvey. I don't know why I get that wrong. Herc Harvey. You don't get a lot of guys with the name Herc. Let's face it, guys. So Herc Harvey's 1962 film Carnival of Souls. Ooh, it's a spooky one, guys. It's got a, speaking of my, giving you my little miniature bad score there, I'll start with the score. Don't usually do that. Gene Moore, fantastic score, all organ music from what I understand. Next, I will actually start where we're supposed to. I kind of broke the rules, went to the guy that made the score. Not that there are any rules. And we'll go into the actual director. We have, like I said, Herc Harvey as the director. He's also playing a role they call the Man. If you look on IMDb,
Very creepy.
Very creepy. He pops up a lot. Good character, silent, but he does it well. I mean, what he doesn't say with words speaks volumes more than what some actors do say with words. So that is the Man. As our main character, we have Mary Henry, our lead actress, and that's Candice Hillgross. She's our lead character, and you follow her down a rabbit hole, guys. And the whole movie, you're like, "What the fuck is going on here?" It's a good one. We have the landlady, Miss Thomas, who is played by Frances Feist, and the minister, who is played by Art Ellison. And we have her neighbor in the apartment complex, John Linden, who is played by Sidney Berger. He plays like this weird, creepy neighbor guy that wants to hit on Mary the entire movie. So everybody in this movie is kind of a little bit weird and creepy. The movie is just a good movie, and we'll get into that more. Couple things you should know. So the movie came out in '62. He was a big influence on future directors like Mr. David Lynch when he did Eraserhead, and he was also a big influence on who was the other person? George Romero and David Lynch when George Romero did Night of the Living Dead here. I lost my train of thought there for a
I
second,
could
guys.
see that.
And my buddy Anthony told me that he was influenced by what, John Cocteau and Ingrid Bergman?
Yeah. John Cocteau and Ingrid Bergman. He really wanted that look of the European, especially the psychological films of like Bergman and John Cocteau, who did the first Beauty and the Beast,
which is a phenomenal film. If you guys ever get a chance, I think it's currently on the Criterion Channel.
Yes,
Which
beautiful.
And of course, there's a Blu-ray release. I actually caved in and added yet another streaming service that I pay for that I shouldn't be doing. Recently, I got the Criterion channel, but I tell you what, Criterion channel is
so
fantastic because you're getting a lot of stuff, guys. And if you do it like a yearly fee, it's not too bad.
This month they have Phantom of Paradise, the
Oh,
early
nice.
Brian De Palma film.
Ooh, Brian De Palma. You can't go wrong with some Brian. I love Brian. Side note, years ago, believe it or not, my older sister, Joy, she actually lived out in California, and one of the first jobs she had was working as a nanny for Brian De Palma.
A nanny?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. She only did it part-time. She covered. She was going to college and working another job, and somehow she got in with that.
Who's he married to now? I know he used to be married to Nancy Allen.
I think he, if I'm not mistaken, he left Nancy Allen because he fell in love with like the babysitter or something.
Oh, but it wasn't your sister.
No, it was my sister. My sister's happily married. She has 2 kids. Not her. No, that wasn't gonna. I don't think she was in.
So it's not trend.
No.
It was just
No, if that was the case, I would have had Brian here discussing one of the movies with you.
It was just once in a lifetime. So he
Yeah. No. I didn't want to make the connection there. No.
It's not serial like nanny.
No,
gator.
but it's weird though because it's not to go off on the rails here, completely off subject. But there's a lot of these directors that have done just that. They've fallen in love with the nanny. Like wasn't it Schwarzenegger? I think fell in love with the housekeeper. He had an affair with his housekeeper, and they have a kid.
Okay.
And there's no, and he did, and there's a couple other directors that same thing happened. So I guess keeping a career and keeping a husband or a wife in Hollywood is a difficult challenge.
Well, I think a lot of those. First of all, you have like all those schedules. They're constantly like doing other filming, and they're just very busy.
It's
So
hard
I
to
think
keep a
it's
relationship,
yeah,
a
yeah,
strong
yeah.
relationship with a
If you're
connection
you have
there.
to be like on a film set somewhere else for a couple of months, I'm sure that's really
Yeah, and
challenging.
let's face it, like as much as people like demonize some of these guys or these girls, the reality is like if your relationship is fractured, and I'm not saying this is excusing these people, but your relationship's fractured because you're on set for so many months, and you have some of these people that like they know they're getting involved with like Kevin Costner's just getting divorced,
But these
and
guys
they still
did it
throw.
at home, though. It's
Oh,
in their home.
but even like
Oh
okay, I mean,
man.
like I'm not excusing these people at all, guys. I'm not excusing. I'm not saying it's good to cheat on your partner at all. I'm not saying that. That's a horrible, bad thing to do. But like the perspective I will say is this much. I think some of these people on their end are also opportunists, and they realize that like, hey, if this doesn't work out, I can sue this person for money, or I can blackmail them, or there's an angle for
Right.
them too. You know what I mean? Like
Maybe.
I feel like we demonize just the one person, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be demonized, but also on the other side of things, I feel like some these people aren't exactly innocent either. They know that
Hmm.
this person's married. They know they shouldn't be doing this, you know.
Right.
But anyway, I'm not going to get into a tirade about
That's
of
that's
morals.
that's on the one
Yeah,
you do on
yeah.
Fatal Attraction.
Yeah. I'm not going to get into a tirade of morals here. Cheating is bad. I'm not. This isn't a conversation about relationships. I just kind of went off the rails. A little side note there on that. Let's get back on track here. I'll see if I can do that for once, and I'll get into the actual story. I'll do a little script breakdown, and you'll give me your thoughts along the
Okay,
way.
sure.
And like I said, interrupt me and my big mouth because uh, I sometimes
All
will
good.
run off
All
on the
good.
rails here. So the movie starts off, and you see these girls in a car, and they're next to these two guys in a car, and they're at like a stoplight, and these guys are just like, "Hey, you want a drag race?" Right? And then you're like,
Yeah.
"Okay, that's kind of weird," but I guess
Feels
it's
very 1950s,
yeah,
right?
it's shot in '62, but
They're
yeah,
even kind of dressed
yeah,
like that.
something out of like Happy Days or something, you know. And they're like, "Yeah, I guess we'll go for it." So they're running down the street here, you
Mm.
know, and the cars they're racing, and all of a sudden they just go off. The girls go off this bridge, and they're in the water, and it's sinking. And we cut to like the next scene is like the cops and everybody's there, and
They,
we
they
see.
save her.
Yeah, they manage to save her. They scour the water for like
Hmm.
hours. The weird part about it is like right off the get go, and it didn't register with me the first time I watched it. I'm like, okay, this is hours later they managed to find her. It's not like a couple minutes later.
Hmm.
So right off the get go, I'm thinking
Something
myself,
strange.
something odd. She should be like
She should be
long gone.
drowned.
But yet she
Drowned.
shows up. She's bedraggled. We see. I think the next scene she's at her local church,
Yeah.
and she's talking to the organist, the father there, excuse me, and she runs the organ at the church, excuse me, and she's talking about how like she wants to get out,
Yeah.
so she's going to transfer to a job in Utah,
Hmm.
and she decides to do that. She needs to start over. I guess she's, you know, like most people, she'd be shocked by like what she just ran into. Like, and we see that kind of stuff, and you're like,
Hmm.
you see death on the news, you see it, and you encounter it first person in your life, and you're like,
Yeah.
holy fuck.
Yeah.
So the next scene, we see her in her car, and you know, it's this long kind of like montage of her driving to Utah, uh, and right off the
With
get
the
go,
man flashing in the mirror, the
yeah,
windows.
yeah, she's sitting on the passenger side window.
Creepy.
She's like driving the road. She sees this weird guy, and he's kind of pale, and he's creepy, and he just looks like you don't want to go near this guy. She sees him once, and then like a couple minutes later, now the guy's in the middle of the road, and her car comes like screeching to a halt.
Yeah.
And you can tell she's like really freaked out. She's like,
Yeah.
"What the hell is going on here?" You know. And like right off the get go, this movie, what I liked is that it sets like a mood. Like right off,
Definitely has an atmosphere. A very
yeah,
strong atmosphere.
very strong atmosphere. It's got some really beautiful shots, and that's the one guy I did not mention. Our DP, whose name was, hold on, guys, I'm gonna bend over here. Don't judge me. Maurice Prather, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's the guy that did the cinematography
Beautiful
for this.
cinematography.
Beautiful cinematography.
Especially the Criterion, like the restoration.
Oh,
Because
Criterion
I
does a
kind
beautiful
of
job.
know it. I don't know if, like, originally I knew it from television, you know, because they would have it on. I think I saw it on television. No, it gets mixed up in my head.
Yeah.
But, like, which I always was kind of drawn into the movie because of what is happening. This is just so strange. And then like when you see the restoration, the work they did,
Yeah, it's absolutely it's stunning. You know,
stunning. The photography is stunning. It was made for very cheap, right?
yeah. And if you guys don't have the Criterion channel, I always tell my viewers, I'm a physical person. I like the physical media. I have the streaming
Yeah, I
stuff.
love that
The
stuff.
good thing about this movie, it's probably won't look as pretty. I think the movie's in public domain. I'm not 100% sure because you can find it on YouTube, the whole movie for free.
Yeah,
And you can also
maybe.
find it on the streaming app Freevee, which is a great little app. They've got a lot of good stuff on
Yeah,
there. So you can find it a lot of places free. Obviously, another good
so
place,
good.
your local library guys, they have a ton of Criterion stuff. Uh,
Yeah,
so you can rent it for like almost a week nowadays, which is nice. So,
yeah,
but
yeah.
seek out the Criterion Restoration if you have the option.
So
Either way, it's awesome.
rewatched it yesterday because I knew you were going to talk about it,
Yeah,
and I just struck at how gorgeous it looks. You know, it does look very much like you mentioned in the commentary of that about John Cocteau, especially like Beauty and the Beast, where
yeah.
it looks the shadow quality it's quite stunning to look at.
Yeah, they really capture that creepy mood and atmosphere right off the get go.
Yeah.
It's one of those films that's just visually
The
striking.
organ music, because it's
Yeah,
very church-like, right? And there's so much talking about church
yeah,
in it, so there's some kind of religious thing, kind of undertones. You know, I mean, it's never really it doesn't really hit you over the head with it, but the organ music makes it
yeah.
feels like you're part of church in
And
a
what's
sense.
what's interesting about that, and I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit more than I should, jumping back and forth here, guys. Later on in the movie, she talks about like not being a religious person, and she's just doing this church job for the money.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but she went to school, and that's where she's like, it's not that I'm overly attached to being a super religious person, but I'm just doing this for the money,
yeah,
and this it's a paying job as a musician. It's hard to come by.
yeah, yeah,
So it's interesting, you know.
yeah.
So anyway, back to the actual where we left off. She's on the road. She saw this weird guy first in her passenger side mirror. Then he appears in the middle of the road. She like spins out of control. I think if I remember correctly, she
Mm,
stops the car and she's freaked out. You know,
mm,
first she saw her friends die.
mm.
You know, she almost died. Now she's seeing this weird guy. What the fuck's going on here? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
She pulls into town into a gas station and she talks to the guy and she's like, you know, I'm trying to find this address. I'm going to become the musician at the local church. I'm going to play the organ. She gets directions from him. And she mentions on her way in, she noticed this like abandoned structure. It looks like like a carnival or something.
yeah,
And he's like, oh, yeah, that was a lot of things, actually. That was originally a bathhouse. And then it went from bathhouse to being like a luxury resort. And then finally it was a carnival. And now it's just this abandoned kind of mess.
hmm,
This kind of like, but also when you see this, it's very haunting. Even
hmm,
just driving by initially, you look at it and it looks like it's like this graveyard of a carnival. You
yeah,
know, it doesn't really have any.
yeah.
You can see that it's
And it
been.
was abandoned, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what made him like interested in filming that.
Yeah, yeah. So apparently they used a real in Salt Lake City, Utah. They used
Yeah,
apparently this was originally a carnival. I don't know if it was originally historically a bathhouse and a luxury resort, but it definitely was an amusement park of some sort.
yeah,
And yeah, he was drawn. I think he was visiting there with his family, and
mm-hmm,
he was drawn to how beautiful it looked
mm-hmm,
in this kind of weird gothic kind of way.
mm-hmm.
And when he was thinking about making his first feature, which is this, he decided to use that. And hey, listen, if you're an independent filmmaker, that's an awesome thing to take advantage of,
Yeah.
especially if you can get it for cheap.
Location,
Yeah, yeah,
location.
it's all about getting the locations, and especially if you can somehow manage to get that on the cheap.
Hmm.
So anyway, back to the film. So she gets directions to the boarding house, and she goes there and she meets the landlady, a lady named Mrs. Thomas, her landlady. She says there's not a lot going on in town. She basically tells her that it's just her and a guy named John Linden that she's renting to, and that's essentially it.
Mm.
Not just a pretty quiet town. So she goes upstairs. She's getting herself comfortable, and lo and behold, in the window, she sees this guy. It's dark out. She sees this guy's creepy face pop up in the window, and of course, she's freaked out because, like, what the fuck's going on here? You know what I mean? Like, why does this guy keep on popping up? This girl's been through a
Right.
lot, so it's pretty crazy. She then the next day we cut to she's in town. She's meeting the new minister,
Mm-hmm.
getting kind of acclimated to her new job. this I thought was kind of weird. It's not a criticism of the movie, but he asked her if she wants to go see the beach where that abandoned carnival was, and I never quite understood. It seemed kind of random. I mean, it gets the story moving forward, but he's like, "Hey, you want to go out to see the boardwalk or the beach?" Where she's like, "That's the one with the abandoned carnival," and he's like, "Yeah, yeah." I thought it was kind of like weird that like from a plot standpoint that like I guess to project the story forward, that's why they did it. But I thought it was kind of interesting. And she gets there with him, and she's like, "Can we go in?" And he's like, "No, you can't go in. It's all boarded up, you know, and you're not stay away from it." So she does that with him. She goes back to the apartment, and she gets comfortable. And she goes to take a shower, and as she's coming out of the shower, she's got like this little bathrobe going on, or a towel, I think. And her neighbor comes out, John Linden. We meet him for the first time, and he's got like greasy hair, and he's also got kind of like a weird vibe to him. I don't know if you want to say just dangerous
Creeps
or pervert, creeps. Yeah, kind of a creepy, pervy kind of guy.
Super like
He's eyeballing her, and he's already kind of trying to like put the moves on her, like, "Hey,
put your tongue back in your mouth, dude."
Yeah. I mean, she's an attractive woman, so you know I get it, but you know it's like this guy's got the creep vibe, and it's pretty strong.
It's very strong.
And he's like, you know, well, you know, I live by myself. I work at a factory. He's like, I'm about to go grab some dinner now. Do you want to grab a bite to eat with me? And
she's like, no.
She's like, yeah, no. I'm kind of like I like to stay to myself, and I think I'm gonna just go in and
keeps hammering her.
Yeah. The whole movie, he's trying to like, you know, he's trying to get lucky, you know. So she says to the house, "No, I'm good, man." And she goes into her room, and hold on one second, guys. I'm gonna cheat with my notes here. She goes back to her room, and she hears a noise, opens her bedroom door, and in the den, she sees the creepy guy sitting on a chair. So this guy just like is like the eternal stalker. I feel like this is like what are those Final Destination movies?
Yeah.
Except this is you actually see a person. You know, this guy keeps on like creeping on her, and the guy's like, I'm not one to get scared by movies very easily, but I'm not gonna lie, there are certain movies that like just creep me the fuck out. You know, like off the rails here a little bit. Side note, like I remember seeing when I was a kid, probably way too early, the first Poltergeist, and the thing that bothered me about that movie that didn't scare me per se, but just creeped me the hell out, there were two things. One,
Clown?
no, it wasn't even the clown. It was,
No?
I'm going to be politically correct, the little person going, "Carolyn, Carolyn." That was fucking creepy.
Really?
That creeped me the fuck out, her voice. And then of course, when they go they see in the pool the dead skeletons floating around.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Okay, those two things. So like there's certain things that like, it's hard to scare me, but there are certain things that just creep me the hell out, and that's like the vibe I got from this movie. This guy just creepy as all fuck.
Yeah.
So she's creeped out. She runs back into her room. The landlady, Miss Thomas, shows up, and she gives her some sandwiches, and she kind of like explains to like Miss Thomas. She's like, "What's going on? I thought it was just me and Mr. Linden."
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, it is just you two." And she's like, "Well, I saw this guy in the den, and he was just sitting in your den on a chair, and he's creepy as all hell." And she's like, "Ah, no, you're fine," just brushing it off. Everybody's like, excuse me, everybody in this movie is kind of like, I feel like giving her the brush off. They're all like, "Oh no, you're good. It's just your imagination. You just went through a tragedy." So she goes to sleep, and somehow another weird thing, how she goes to sleep so easily. Like throughout the entire movie, she's creeped out, but she goes to sleep. She falls asleep, and in the morning, she hears a knock on her door, and it's Mr. Creeper Neighbor again. He pops up, and he's got like he's got the coffee pot.
Creepy dudes tend to do.
Yeah, he knocks up. He's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And she's like, "Do you want a cup of coffee?" And she's a little more friendly, a little more receptive to him at this point, but still a little bit. You can see there's some distance there. He's like, "I'm gonna go get some breakfast. Do you want to go get some breakfast?" And she's like, "No, I gotta go to work. I got a full day. You know." Well, actually, no, I don't have to go to work, but I have a full day of stuff to do. So she brushes him off politely, but she's a little more receptive this time. And she goes, excuse me, guys, I can't get rid of this damn cough I've had for months or weeks. Excuse me. She goes shopping in the local town at like, I don't know, it's like a Macy's or whatever, some sort of department store.
She buys this black dress.
Yeah,
right?
she buys this beautiful black dress. She goes to put it on. She's about to go purchase it, and when she comes out, she goes to talk to someone, and it's like
That
she's
part
not
was
even.
very weird.
She's like they're not paying attention. They're like not
Yeah,
even acknowledging her existence.
yeah.
And at first, she's like, okay, well, maybe there's something going on. Like as a viewer, we're thinking maybe there's something going on with this lady. Who knows? Maybe she's deaf. We don't know what's going on with this lady.
Mm.
But there's something weird. But she tries approaching multiple people, and she's getting the same thing. It's like she doesn't exist. So again, some more
Mm.
things in my brain when I'm watching this, especially the first time I'm watching it. Like, what the fuck's going on? Because she could talk to Mister. She could talk to the creepy neighbor. She can talk to the gas station guy. She can talk to the minister. She can talk to the other people. But
Mhm.
then there's certain parts of the movie where they just they just there's they just don't acknowledge
Didn't
her.
match it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird. So that just kind of freaks her out. She runs out of the shopping center, and she goes to get a drink of water, and she looks up, and again, it's this fucking McCreepy here with the face, you
Yeah.
know. And then she's shocked, and then the second time, she sees this guy who's more straight laced. He looks normal. He sees that she's upset, and she's like, he's like, hey, are you right? And she's like,
Mhm.
not really. And he's like, well, I'm a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I'm a doctor, and if you want, why don't you come with me, and I'll
Mhm.
talk to you, and we'll see if I can
Right.
help you out. So he goes in her office, and
Mhm.
they have a conversation, and she tells him her whole story,
Mhm.
and especially the part about this guy that keeps on popping up, and
Mhm.
he says, listen, like I said, I'm not a psychiatrist, but this definitely seems like maybe you're just traumatized a little bit
Yeah.
by what happened to you, as I think most people would be.
Mhm.
He says, but it seems like your nerves are just getting the best of you, and you have like an overactive
Mhm.
imagination. um, so he says, try to just do your best, and hopefully this will go away, kind of basically.
Hmm.
Um, I might be ad-libbing there a little bit.
No, I think that was pretty
Just give me
accurate.
1 second, guys, because I lost my train of thought for a second, as I do sometimes. He thinks maybe the abandoned carnival, because she mentioned that in the conversation, might have something to do with it.
Mhm.
Um, and she was kind of like weirded out by the carnival, but she's also curious about it too. Like she already checked it out once with the minister.
Mhm.
So this time she goes to the carnival, and she gets past the boarding up stuff and decides to walk around. And there's this whole scene where she's just kind of walking around the
Mhm.
abandoned carnival by herself,
Mhm.
and she doesn't see anything weird. Now, us as a viewer, there's a scene where she looks into the water, and she doesn't see it, but you see the creepy guy,
Mhm.
and he's just like looking up,
Mhm.
and he's got Mr. McCreepy face going on. But at this point, like I said, she doesn't recognize anything.
Right.
She thinks, okay, it's a boarding up thing. Maybe my imagination is just running a little
Mhm.
wild. I've been through some trauma, and she goes back home. Uh, excuse me, not anything concerned about. Next scene we cut to, she's at the church, and she's practicing on the organ, and it's just her. And it starts off like a completely normal scene, and then it's weird because it goes from a completely normal scene with her just playing the organ, and then she's starting to have all these like weird visuals. Like she's seeing um, the abandoned carnival park, but all these people are dancing, and she's seeing the creepy guy, and she's playing the piano while she's having these visions. um, it's pretty, like I said, it's
Yeah.
creepy McCreep is the best way to describe this movie. There's some creepy, weird stuff going on in this movie.
Mhm.
She snaps out of it when the minister shows up, and he's like, "What were you playing? What is that music?" And she's like, I don't know. I was just kind of playing some music." He's like, "Well, that's not appropriate for a church." And
Mhm.
he's like, I'm afraid I don't think I'll be able to let you continue to work here.